All right, welcome everybody to another episode of the Course Consultant Show. I am so excited to have a very special guest, Tanya. Tanya is joining me today, and Tanya helps coaches, consultants, and course creators just like you to leverage on video content to get visible and seen online, sell more courses, sell services. And the great thing is that Tanya has some really great tips on how to do this, and you can watch Tanya go live within her very own Facebook group on her channel. You can check it out at getnoticedwithvideo.com. So thank you, Tanya, for joining me today on the Course Consultant Show. I'm so excited to talk about getting live on camera, doing video.
I'm excited to be here with you, Melody, and I just absolutely love your energy and enthusiasm. And thank you for saying my name correctly, because sometimes people get that wrong and say Tanya. but it's all good. I'm so excited. Whatever I can share, I'm happy to share.
Yeah, so I just want to say really quick on a personal note, Tanya and I met through another friend, and we just connected on this crazy level. I mean, the level at which we were talking, we actually found out that she previously lived in Yuma, Arizona, which is crazy because this is a really small town. And so we had a great chat and conversation about that, and also just running an online business. So Tanya, let's talk about video. I know you have so much experience, over 10 years, in helping people with making sure that they're ready to get visible with video. But for those people who maybe are just really scared to get on camera and aren't quite prepared to hit the live button, what would you say to them to get visible and actually just have the confidence to go on camera? How would people get started with that?
Yeah, that's a great question. And here's the thing. I don't think there's going to be a magic formula that fits every single person. I'm an introvert. And when I say an introvert, like I mean a big introvert, not just the light kind, but like introvert heavy. And one of the things that I had to overcome is just this fear of putting myself out there and being vulnerable. So I think really the first step to getting started is to figuring out, what is your why? Like, why do you want to do this anyway? Why do you want to? And if it's to market your business or your courses or your services, like I know a lot of the people that are probably in your audience want to do, then we have to take a little bit of a risk and kind of get out of our shell, get out of our comfort zone. So I think the first tip to getting started is committing to trying. It doesn't mean we had to commit to doing it forever, but I had to just take a step and say, look, I'm willing to try. That's the very first thing.
Yeah, I love that you said just trying, because you have to experiment with what's going to work for your business. And also, I think for me personally, as a data-driven person, I actually really like to track where my referral sources are coming from. So if you're nerdy like me and you're watching this video here on YouTube, or you're listening to this recording on my podcast, what's really, really fun and interesting is to look at the data of where your traffic is coming from. So if you're using YouTube to market your business, or you're using Facebook groups, or you're using Facebook pages and using video, the great thing is that you can track all of that traffic using Google Analytics. And there's a couple of other tools that you can use to see where traffic is coming from. And traffic is great, right? Because regular storefronts know foot traffic. I remember I worked at Claire's years ago, years ago. And they would actually have me write down in a little binder, and they would ask, what was the foot traffic that today? And here, as online business owners, I don't think we actually consider where our traffic sources are coming from and what is going to help bring in the revenue and also the kinds of clients that we want to work with. And so video is one of the most impactful ways that I've seen help to grow, connect, and also close those packages for me. So Tanya, when you got started with video and also with what you're doing now, how do you know which one is going to be right for you? Obviously, there's Facebook Live, we have YouTube Live, and there's plenty of other places where you can use video, like IGTV, or I think that's gone now.
So
well,
kind of. It's kind of sort of gone.
So tell us, with all these new video platforms, how do we know which one to get started with, what's right for our business, and how have you guided customers in your own work through answering those types of questions?
So first of all, going a little bit back to your first question and how you answered it. The one thing that I think that really kind of encouraged me to even make that effort to look into video in the first place was the idea that I started seeing and reading, and everything, all the information that was out there was saying video is the platform. This is where we want you to be. And by we, I mean many of the social media platforms, because prior to doing video marketing, I was really heavy into the social media and content marketing spaces. And I saw my own organic reach, meaning non-paid reach, go down dramatically to where it was like crickets. And it wasn't until I decided I had to make this decision about, okay, am I going to continue to move forward and have zero success and nobody even sees all this effort? It's like a duck running in the water. Underneath the water, you can see there's all these feet running, and that felt like me. But then on top of it, there were no results. There was nothing happening. So I think it's smart that you talked about the idea of metrics and the fact that if you just pay attention to what you're doing with video and then look into what type of results you're getting, more than likely, if you're consistent, and there's a couple of things that you do need to do and to put in place, but just like with any other type of marketing strategy, you have to measure, but you will probably see better results than what you've seen with your other types and forms of content. So I needed to mention that. But the other thing you asked in terms of like, how do you decide which one? Because video is literally on every social media platform. It's on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, even though Periscope is gone and now replaced with just Twitter Live, even though Instagram has recently changed from IGTV, but now they're calling it Instagram TV or Instagram video. Same thing, right? Even same platform, but they're just doing things slightly different. In either case, I think the important thing is to figure out where your people are. Now, the question that typically comes after that is, what if I don't have people, Tanya? I have no people yet. Like, I'm just literally starting out and trying to figure out how to even build and grow an audience. To me, there's this marriage between two places. It's the marriage between what you get excited about, where you feel like joy and where you enjoy spending time. And then the other side of that is, where are the people that you're trying to reach? So if you enjoy spending time on a space like Facebook versus a LinkedIn, which may be a little bit more conservative, if you will, and a little more professional, but you like to be kind of your natural fun and humorous self or whatever, then Facebook might be a good space for you to start out because you enjoy that space. But are your people there? So if your audience that you want to work with, even though you haven't decided or haven't built and attracted a major audience yet, but you're trying to, if you think about who it is you want to serve and they're spending time on Facebook too, that's a happy marriage. Now, if they're not, so I can tell you right now, for instance, my teenage daughter, so age 20, she is not spending time on Facebook. She says, I would never. Like, that's no, mom. So if I were trying to reach her age or younger, that's not going to be my happy place. And I would have to find a medium. Like, where are you spending time then? And you've got to do your homework and your research and testing and all of those things. But I think the first place to try is where you feel the happiest. Where do you like spending time? Because if you choose a space where you don't like spending time, it's going to be more of a chore, and it will not feel like that's the spot that you have passion for. You will not grow because it will feel unnatural to you to really get on camera and to create any type of content in that space. YouTube is a great space to hang out, but it's not where I tell people to try at first. If you're trying to get on video, really, I think that Facebook Live is going to be the easiest. And the reason why I say that is because there are a lot of features that are available to you. And most of the time, most of us can find our fans or potential fans in that space. LinkedIn, you have to get approval anyway. So you can't just go live without having some type of presence and having done some networking already before you do video, because you must be approved by the LinkedIn administrators. So I would say starting with Facebook. And then if you find, you know what, I am going to be consistent on camera, this seems like fun. And even if your audience hasn't grown there just yet, but you're ready to move next level, YouTube is a good spot to be. But I almost think that I found YouTube pre-recorded and uploaded videos to be better and to get more results and traction than if you're doing live stream videos like I do on Facebook. So I know there was a lot in there, but ultimately I would say start with where you feel happy, where you want to play, put your toe in the water and see how it goes. Learn that space. Usually it's going to be Facebook unless you have an audience that definitely is just shying away from there. And then build in other spaces after you've gotten your sea legs where you are.
Right. Like you said, I think it has to do with your energy level of where you're going to spend that time, because I had a student inside of my membership. We were talking about this very topic. Which content marketing platform should I consider? Everyone says go video, but I'm also thinking about a podcast. I'm also thinking about blogging. Which one do I spend my time on? And so I really just flipped that question back on the student and said, hey, you know what? Which one do you feel like you actually enjoy doing? Because yes, I can just tell you until I'm blue in the face, video is great. But if you are just going to just not do it at all, I would rather have you start blogging and then eventually get the confidence to go into video. And to be honest, you know, when people start doing a lot of content marketing to the point where they are repurposing, and you know, you have your podcast, you repurpose your podcast with the video from YouTube, and you have the video on Facebook live streaming at the same time. Some people who are just starting, it's just too much, right? And so then they quit and they feel unsuccessful. So I'd rather have somebody actually start at the base and say, hey, you know what? I never really go on live. Why not try it out? See what kind of responses are out there. And then you can be like shaking your video and you're like, there's a thumb in the camera, and, you know, just all the newbie things that happen when you go and do a new thing. And so I definitely love what you said about YouTube when you do the live versus recorded. And I want to talk a little bit more about the strategy, because really that's where my head is at. And I hope that people are listening are in that same headspace. So when we're thinking about long-term growth and strategy, I love that you were saying, find out where your audience is at. But you and I both know YouTube has some really great benefits, including we have all of this searchable content. You know, people have search intent, they have purchase intent, they are looking for a problem. You could quote YouTube it, you know, and find all these issues. And especially for consultants out there, or even just business owners in general, like SaaS company owners who are having a product that solves a problem, it's a great space to be in. So what kind of tips, you know, on the YouTube side, without, you know, obviously overshadowing all the benefits of all these other platforms, could somebody get from having recorded videos on a platform like YouTube in terms of, you know, reaching their audience, getting visible with the right people?
You just mentioned the biggest one, and that is the search engine capability, because it literally is, I think, the second largest. Google is the first largest search engine out there, but YouTube is the second largest. And why? Because they're both owned by the same brand, basically, right? Google / YouTube. So I think that one of the biggest benefits is the fact that if you put, or when you create this library of videos on YouTube, if you're using the right keywords, if you're using the type of phrases and words that people will literally put into the space, into the search space, because they're looking for a specific thing, that's going to help you. The other thing that's going to help you if you're deciding that you want to leverage YouTube more is if you're really crystal clear about what your theme is. And here's the reason why. If you are all over the place and today you're talking about cats, and tomorrow you're talking about real estate, and the next day you're talking about relationships, and the next day, if you've got all these different keywords and you've got all of these different topics that you're speaking about, YouTube's algorithm is not going to figure out. They're going to be like, well, what is she an expert in? Where do we need to put her? What category should we put her in so that she can be found? And when you're all over the place, you're diluting that. So I think the positive, the benefit, if you use it correctly, is that people can find you based on what they're searching for. So I totally agree with what you already said, the search engine piece. The other thing that I think is positive about YouTube, and this is something because even before I ever said I'm committed to doing video, before I said that, I still had some videos out there. They mostly were not with my face. Now, I'm a live video strategist. That's what my specialty is, Melody. When we start talking about YouTube, the reason why I made that differentiation between live versus pre-recorded or uploaded is that I know for a fact that I've probably taken a ding. I've taken a little bit of a toll on my own self being able to build quickly on YouTube because I don't do a lot of uploaded pre-recorded videos. But that's primarily what does better on YouTube, because when you're doing pre-recorded and uploaded videos to YouTube and other spaces, it tends to be more produced. Mm-hmm. Like you're going to try to be more perfect, right? Because you've got time to go back and you add this intro and this outro and you have music and you have, right, little B-roll clips and all these other things that you're doing. So it is going to take more time, and it can take more of an investment, because you can't literally get on there and have this grainy video or awful sound and do really well long-term, right, for YouTube. So if you're going to invest the time in YouTube, yes, you can get the results back, and the results will be the search functionality. It will be the long-term library, right? Because now you've created this whole record that people can go back and look at you videotaping 2000 and 2001, right? People do that with me right now and find me on topics that I don't even remember I talked about from years ago. That's great. So from a visibility standpoint, from a findability standpoint, if people are wanting to search you, YouTube is the place to be. But you have to recognize that there's some give and take, and you've got to invest the time in making sure that you're producing more refined videos, that you're investing in the equipment and the setup that you have so that you can stand out, and so that you can really at least be in the running with others that are also out there sharing similar topics. Mm-hmm. So I hope that helps and makes sense.
Yeah. So there's definitely a pros and cons to, having content on that platform. And I totally hear what you're saying about, the live versus pre-recorded, because with the live on Facebook, I see just so much more comments. A lot of people are able to ask me questions quickly. I like being able to have the ability to interact with people on Facebook, which is great. And not to say you can't do that on YouTube. It's just a different experience. The user interface is different. And then also, where are they at? So you might have, a higher view count on Facebook groups if that's where you spend a lot of time versus on YouTube. And, I follow this one YouTuber, and they have a live video every single week at a specific time. And they tell their users on YouTube, hey, join us live. And that's their CTA right at the end. Hey, make sure that you subscribe to us. We host weekly videos at this time. And I think that, one concern that I talk with some people about when they're just getting started with video is I feel like I'm going to fall off the bandwagon with my weekly content with video. I'm sure you probably heard people say that, with clients that you worked with in the past, Tanya, and also yourself, what do you tell people to help them get over the hump of their planning and producing? Because that's really what it comes down to, getting into the weeds, going out there, doing the thing, and being consistent enough, or, at least doing it enough times where your sea legs are now fully formed, you're ready to sell and get people to work with you.
Yeah, that's the question of the day, the consistency piece. So to me, there are really three main things, really kind of four, but I'll talk about three. One is the confidence building. Two is the content strategy, because you need to have a content strategy when it comes to video. And three is the consistency piece. And consistency really happens when you have created kind of a system for yourself. And I know you're a systems thinker. We both are alike in that way. That's why we got along so quickly. You have to have the system. You have to have the workflows. You have to realistically commit to a day and time. So like you mentioned, the person that has a live on YouTube right now, for me, I actually have Facebook Live. And when I first started really doing more video, my number one thought was I have to write down and tell people what I'm committed to doing. So personally, I committed first, but then secondly, I had to say, okay, my commitment is going to be every Thursday at 7 p.m. Central is when I'm going to do this, rain or shine. If my hair looks horrible, if I have no makeup on, if I'm feeling like crap, right? All of those things come down to commitment and calendaring. So the consistency thing, I think if we fall off just like we would with exercise, it's harder to get back on the bandwagon once you stop. So if you go back to what I said about knowing your why, what is the purpose of me even doing video in the first place? For me, it was because I wanted to serve people in a real and authentic way. I wanted to make sure that people knew that they too could be able to use this type of content to grow their businesses and get more visibility for their businesses. I wanted them to see it because I had seen it for myself. Knowing that why made me get up, made me ensure that I put everything else aside, that I told the kids, hey, on Thursday at 7 p.m. Central, this is mommy's time, right? Please put the dogs up so that they're not barking for the next 30 minutes. That's the other thing, thinking about what realistically can work for you and your home situation. Because with the whole situation that we've all been in for the last year plus, we've had to make some adjustments because sometimes you have a lot of folks that you're competing or that are competing for your time, especially if you're a mom or you're a caregiver of some kind, right? So I think the consistency, the solution to consistency is being real with yourself and honest with yourself about what you can commit to. It is putting it into some type of dedicated schedule. It is repetitive. It means having a system that helps you when you're not feeling like you want to do it. And by system, I mean things like I have a show flow, so I know how I want to start off each show. I know that there's a certain number of points that I want to talk about. I have kind of a sketchy outline before I go live. All those things help me to stay consistent. And I think for most people, if they have a track to run on, they're more likely to stick with it than to fall off. So deciding for yourself realistically, what can I fit into my calendar at least on a weekly basis? If you do anything less than a week, it's probably not going to be worth it, whether it's YouTube, LinkedIn, wherever. I mean, not LinkedIn, Facebook, any of those spaces. It's not going to be worth your time if you're not doing at least weekly videos. Mm-hmm. And what you mentioned too is one of the reasons why I'll say, I'm not going to say I'm lazy, because by no means am I lazy. But one of the reasons why I do more live stream is because that requires less editing.
Oh, yeah.
So, if you're going to do pre-recorded and you're going to perfect it and you're going to produce it, you do have to build in time in your week after you're done recording to make sure that you go and edit or have someone else that you outsource to edit to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, I think one thing that I've really tried to do with video, which again, I am not a video content strategist. I'm not a live strategist. That's why I had Tanya on to this show today, because people ask about how do you stream on Facebook? I'm like, I'm not even going to go there. I'm going to tell you 3 tips. That's it. I'm just kidding. So what I think is important to consider is what is going to save you time and headache, and what's the thing preventing you from actually executing. So for me personally, I have a separate video on this on my YouTube channel on running a summit. And so when I ran a summit virtually, it was using a lot of the tools and tech that I have. And one of the challenges I had was, how do I make this look professional without hiring a video editor and also making sure that I'm not over like spread too thin during the summit. And so that's why I invested in a stream deck. And so I use a stream deck, I use Restream, and I also use Ecamm. And so I have these graphic overlays. I know at the beginning of the show, I'm going to have an overlay with some music. During the middle of the show, I'm going to have a certain camera, and it's all set up beforehand. I didn't do any of that during. All I do is press with my one little finger, press a little button, and there you go. It is done for me. I don't have to worry. And I think when people sometimes get into the weeds of it, they start to think, well, I have to have this big, amazing setup, and my background has to be perfect and all these things. But do whatever you think is best for you so that you can go do the things. Because if you keep saying, well, I'm not going to do it at all because I don't have a good background, or because, this whatever microphone isn't in yet. Obviously, I do think it's important to have good audio, because that's one thing people will tune out of real quickly. But if you keep telling yourself that you won't do something until X amount of perfection is left, and completed, then you're never going to do it. So just do whatever you need to do to feel prepared enough to execute on the video if that's what you really want to do. And that's who your people are going to watch. So that's what my little spiel on that. Speaking of tools, Tanya, do you have any recommendations on tools that you use to help increase efficiency, improve your experience as the person going live on video?
For me, one of them you mentioned, and that is Restream. So I do and I highly suggest starting out with a streaming platform. You can do the free version of any of these platforms I'm about to mention, or you can do a paid subscription. I suggest starting with free, seeing how committed you truly are going to be to video, because you're putting the toe in the water at first. But StreamYard is one that I highly recommend to people who are just easing into live video, because it's very simple. The dashboard, what they call the user interface, the dashboard is really clean and it's simple to navigate. It's simple to get around and to figure out where things are. Restream is the one that I use right now as well. Ecamm Live is another one for people who have a Mac computer. So love all of those streaming platforms. My goal is to tell people, just pick one. Start with that and get to learn it first. Get comfortable with it. If there's something you don't like about it after 30 days, then go to the next one and try something else. But stick with one at least for 30 days. That's the tool that I think I would suggest starting out with, is some type of streaming platform that will help you to stream into either Facebook, YouTube, or the other spaces, depending on where you're trying to put your brand out there. The second thing I think I would recommend would definitely be, you said this too, investing in a good microphone at some point. And if you're not quite ready to really, really just dig in your pocket and find those Black Friday sales that might be coming up, for instance, then you may want to try just using a lavalier mic, or a lapel mic is what it's called. So it just literally clips onto your shirt, or sometimes people will clip it underneath their shirt in their undergarments, because it gives you pretty decent sound, and you can connect that directly to your laptop or desktop computer. If you're using that, it's going to be under $20 on Amazon to find a lavalier or a lapel mic. The last and final tip I guess I would give besides the mic would be, because you literally can use any camera to get started. You'll upgrade over time as you really get into this, but a plug and play USB webcam, perfect. You can use a webcam. A Logitech webcam is the brand that most people use. The one called Logitech C922 is really the base. Like if you're not using your smartphone, which is where you really can start, then a C922 is a really next level, but not too complicated version of a webcam. And then there's others as well. I think lastly, because I didn't mention this, and it's not really technology or a tool, but natural lighting. If you're not ready to invest in lighting, ring lights and key lights and all these other types of expensive lights, just find a nice place in your home or office that has good window lighting, because that honestly works the best for any type of video, is to have just really good full face lighting coming from the sun or from daylight through a window. or if you're outside even. It's just that if you're outside, the tip is it's going to be more difficult to manage the sound environment. So yeah, those are a few of the things that I would mention. Now, I keep saying the only, because I literally could go on and on with this. I have a whole library full of tools. Let me mention one more thing. When I mentioned script earlier, it's not about you sitting down and writing a book. So it's not about having this whole written out thing that you're reading. When you read to people, that's disengaging. It's not going to help them to really see you as a real human person. So instead, you can literally just take some sticky notes and write a couple of thoughts and put those around your camera or put them at the top of your monitor, right where your camera is, so that you don't forget the little points that you want to make. Or you could sign up for a subscription to Workflowy or a mind map system. Workflow is my favorite because it's just a little outliner tool that you can use. And that's honestly what I use to create my show notes. But there are lots and lots of things you can get caught up in. If I were to give you, just starting out, the 3 things you need: look at your sound, make sure you can be heard; look at your lighting, make sure you can be seen; and look at your webcam. Those 3 things will get you through, and the other things are extras that you can add as you go.
Totally. I think those are really great points. And when people are doing all of the investment in their tech, like you said, you can do it over time. You can gradually build. Now, if you're a business owner who has thousands of dollars at your disposal, go and just get the best setup. There are plenty of great kits out there that you can just grab and go. So I love what you shared today, Tanya. And like, I know we could definitely talk about this for a much longer. But I want to make sure that I give people a more supportive, helpful content that they can learn a lot more from you about this topic of live video. So what's a good resource that you have maybe that people could really get to take that next step in their live video content marketing strategy, whether they're a brand new beginner or somebody who's just like, I need somebody to walk me step by step through my video content? Tell me, what do you have for us today?
I would say to start out with the quiz. So because I do specialize in live video, and I'm trying to help my clients and people that are in my circle of influence to really engage through live interaction with their potential leads and clients. The quiz is called the Live Video Readiness Quiz. And so if you go to quiz.getnoticedwithvideo.com, you'll be able to get access to take this short quiz, answer the questions honestly about where you are, and then you'll get a personalized report and a short video from me that will give you some tips on, here's some things that I see as gaps, and here's what you could work on. And it's going to give you a special invitation to join our Facebook community so that we can love on you a little bit and help you put that toe in the water and learn how to do more live video.
Fabulous. So excited. And friends, if you're listening to this or watching the YouTube video, and just go for that link. Head over to the quiz, join the Facebook community. I'm in there. You should join. It's great. And really just, this is going to fit into your larger content marketing plan. Even if you're not quite sure if video is going to have the ROI for you yet, I want you to take a moment to look at your overall marketing strategy and see what Tanya is doing, see what she is doing so that you can incorporate that into your plan and see what it can do for your business. So thanks again for joining me on today's episode. I'm so excited to share this with my community, Tanya. I so appreciate your time.
Thank you.